This is the KnightShift podcast, powered by Black and Gold Banneret, your home for news and analysis from all UCF Knights sports. The KnightShift starts now. Welcome to the all-new KnightShift. What is up, folks? We got the crew in here for you as we kick off the 2024-2025 UCF athletics season. Today was the first day of fall practice for football, and that means it's Christmas for us, basically. This is KnightShift number 434. Shout out to Alafaya Trail. As typical, your host, Jeff Sharon, here with you as we I tell you what, we're trying to relaunch this thing a little bit here. You know, I got some.
I was going to say, I haven't seen you or Kyle here. Me and Bryson have been doing shows.
I know you guys have been chugging along through the dog days, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate that. Kyle's been traveling the world.
I mean, haven't seen me. Who's the one that had the basketball schedule reactions with former panelist Nick Porcelli here? Come on.
Kyle Nash, the student of the game in the house. Eric Lopez is here, and Bryson Turner is here, and we've got plenty of things to talk about. We got some news off of football coming off of this first day, by the way. We got some sound from Gus Malzahn as well, and an update from Paris, the Olympics. Four former UCF Knights competing in five. Thank you, Bryson. 5 former UCF Knights competing in the Olympics as well in rugby and rowing events. And Bryson's been keeping tabs on that and certainly enjoying, Marie Antoinette singing with her severed head. I mean, all that.
You bring things into a wrong political direction there, Jeff.
All right, no.
This was we're gonna get the Olympic talk, but we're not gonna do it right now because
let me get the plug in, guys. Instead of worrying about all that, how about we go ahead and let Jeff practice the Bing with the relaunch of stuff as we talk about the interviews that Bryson Turner has with these Olympic athletes on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel.
Indeed. And as usual, you can follow us on YouTube as well as Threads, X, and Instagram, as well as Facebook. Now, let us begin. Today is July 29th, and that means it is the beginning of the college football season for UCF. First day of practice out there. It was hot. It was humid, as it usually is. A lot of new faces on the team this year, Kyle. 44, I think, by our latest count. A lot of them on defense, some key ones on offense. Mm-hmm. You were able to get a little bit of a look on at the team in the first 20 minutes. Just enough for us to not be able to really tell anything. And then you talked to head coach Gus Malzahn afterwards. Just it was lay of the land. What was it like today?
I mean, honestly, looking at practice, one thing did stand out, and Coach Malzahn did confirm it after practice that this was the case. This could arguably be the healthiest UCF has been going into a fall camp in a very long time. So there's that. Coach Malzahn said that as much. There was a lot of things unique about Coach Gus and some things that were very different when he talked after practice too, particularly his temperament. Not that he was there, a kaiju setting buildings on fire and everything, but there was an energy and a vigor that I hadn't seen before quite like this in front of the media folk at any rate.
Well, you talked to him for about 11 minutes, right? And I thought, I listened to the press conference. I wasn't obviously there for it, but he sounded like the level had been upped here, I think, significantly. He mentioned obviously the depth, but he kept emphasizing the expectations of excellence here. And I think it's important, it's not like he didn't have high expectations before, but I think now, and he even mentioned not just, the players, but I think really everybody, right, Kyle?
Particularly himself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that stood out. Something I put up on the Black and Gold Banneret Twitter account. Bing! Remember, I say Twitter because I'm a family man. I don't want to tell everybody I'm on X. Anyways, so with all that in mind, see, I knew Jeff would catch up to that here eventually.
Jeez.
The main piece to me is he was asked what the biggest change is about him as a coach going into year 4 here at UCF. And for him, it was self-reflection. We heard him say that 6 wins was not enough to satisfy him and that he was
not
just
good enough. Right.
It stunk.
No, Elo, we're not having that conversation.
No, I'm reading between the lines. Look, you want to know his tone?
Okay.
Yeah, that was his tone. Last year was terrible and unacceptable. That's absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just that it wasn't good enough. Yeah, right. It's not just that it wasn't good enough, but he felt pissed about it. This man is angry about what happened, right? And there are certain aspects that he even put together a punch list. You may have heard one of the questions I asked him about the upcoming Big 12, second year in the Big 12. You know, if finding that new level, if that new expectations, as you know, we talk about expectations every year. What about year 2 in Big 12 made it different? As part of the answer to that question, which you can see on the Black and Gold Banner YouTube channel. And well, while we're here, it also comes up in my article about what happened today on the blackandgoldbanner.com as well. But during that, he brought up just a punch list of things he already knows for a fact has to get better. And that's over and above the little things like stopping the run and defense and all that. So,
well, let's go ahead and listen to his answers to your questions right now, Kyle.
Coach, you talk about improving and expectations. It's obviously something we talk about every season, but is this year a little different? Second year in the Big 12, is that kind of looming over how much you guys want to improve from last year? How much is that in the conversation right now?
We know the areas we need to improve on. The quality, depth, the physicality. We lost close games, accountability, everything that goes with that. And like I said, the big challenge is we got 40 new guys coming in with the guys we had last year. But just after one day, I'll tell you, we do have quality depth. You can tell the experience. That's probably what stands out to me compared to last year. We got experienced guys running around everywhere, and that's really good. It's just a matter of everybody coming together, everybody understanding the expectation.
Coach, in the spring, it's been pretty clear your target on defense was to try to stop the run. Offensively, the question I would have is the biggest challenge, again, for the third year, turning over a patchwork offensive line and getting a group of guys to kind of mesh and meld once more time. Do you think that's the biggest challenge to build the offense?
I don't know. What were we 2 years ago? Number 15 offense in the country. Last year we were 7 or 8. We're going to be in that same category again. Our offensive line, we got experience. We feel good about them. I think we got a little bit of depth right there. My big deal offensively is we were running disciplines crap last year, and that's coaching. We got to do a better job of the penalties. We got to do a better job of protecting the football. We got talent, but we got to do the things to help win games.
And so this is just where the tone change from Coach Malzahn is just very clear. But I think the question was asked earlier, we were talking about his self-reflection and stuff like that, just him being angry about it and him blaming himself on no uncertain terms. In Gus Malzahn's opinion, it starts with him. It was him more than anything else. And I think there's an element here too, the air quotes excuse that could be made for him is getting used to life as a CEO coach in a world with NIL and all this other stuff that's going on. And now that he has a grasp of that, I would imagine we might even see a bit more of the Gus Malzahn signature.
He did kind of mention, going back a little bit, Kyle, about how he wants to get back to kind of his roots a little bit, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's in that same response, right?
Yeah, and he kind of, and I can't remember if it was the same question or a different one, but he kind of said, offensively, at heart, we're a zone read team.
Mm-hmm. That was earlier on, yeah.
And I was like, okay, so we're really like breaking this down. So I guess my question to you, and I want to go to Eric after this. My question to you is, do you feel like, this is like, I remember a story about Bill Parcells where after he almost got fired, he went to Phil Simms and he said, trust me, Phil, next season, if I get through this, we're going to do it my way. And is this Gus's kind of, I'm not, obviously Gus's job security is fine, but like, is this him saying, hey, we're going to get back to what I know best. We're simplifying things. And does that have to do with the 40 some new guys on the roster too?
I think that's a part of it too. He said that was not only be the biggest challenge in his opinion to make all the fixes he wants to make, harnessing these 40 some odd dudes, right? But he does also mention that all of them are experienced football players. There's not a bunch of youth. And frankly, it sounds like he's relying on that experience to get the job done, right? Okay. So,
Elo, I want to flip it over to you. We've talked about this. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more in a little bit, but are you sensing urgency, pressure, the sense that this might be as good an opportunity as ever for UCF to really chase after, potentially a Big 12 championship, considering who's going to be a senior on the roster? Where did you sense that Gus was on that side?
I think it's a little bit of everything there. Mm-hmm. I think it definitely bothers him. They went 6-7 last year. It's his first losing season in his career in coaching.
Well, if I can, is it that they went 6-7, or is it that they had so many opportunities, fourth quarter leads, close games that they just didn't?
Yeah, that makes it worse. Yeah, it makes it worse that in his mind they felt they could have made a difference in winning some of those games because. Remember, this is a man that's won an SEC championship. This is a man that has beaten Nick Saban head-to-head, okay? I don't think he's sweating anybody in this Big 12 conference. With all due respect to the Big 12, this ain't a powerhouse league. And I think he also sees that the sport has changed. And that is there's now a 12-team playoff, which means it's playoff or bust. Nobody's going to care if you go to the Gasparilla Bowl anymore. This is the new sport now. And I think he feels he has a roster that can make the playoff. I think the fact there's a lot of new faces, these are players he handpicked. And I think there's to Kyle's point, and you guys brought it up, last year he didn't feel like he was himself. He felt like, well, it's the right thing to do to hand over this or be a CEO, but that's not who he is. You have to be yourself. I think he has high expectations. I mean, I think this is refreshing, by the way. I think what we saw is honesty and refreshing that, hey, yeah, you know what? I hear you, fans. I agree with you. 6-7 is disappointing. I was disappointed. That's unacceptable at this program. We should never have a losing season. I think it's refreshing. And I think he's like, you know what? I will own up to it. I made changes. I made changes to the staff. I made changes to the roster. We'll see what happens. But I think, yes, I think it's a little bit of all of that. In a landscape where he understands. I mean, now there is no more excuses. It used to be, we're in the American. It doesn't matter. We're capped on where we can go. He now knows there's a path to the playoffs.
Well, that's why he's here, right? It was that path. And let me add one thing too, Elo. Yes. All the stuff you said is awesome and 100% right. I would only raise it this. You might have noticed I asked him about what the biggest challenge on offense what might be, and I presumed it would be trying to gel the offensive line a third time. He rebuked that and said, to me, we need to be more disciplined. And what did he do immediately after? Once again, pin it on him.
Which he did, in fair, and you know this, Kyle, who covered every presser last year. He would get asked about penalties and mistakes, and he would bring it up that we got to do a better job coaching them.
100% right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Gus really strikes me as a man on a mission this season. You can, I think you can tell.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's.
I agree with that.
Well, let me funnel that over to our next thing because we're in a couple of weeks we're going to be doing our look at the 5 biggest questions facing UCF football this season, and we're trying to narrow it down here, folks. So we've got about 12 that we kind of have on a working document here. So. And this kind of brings me to one of them that I think we're going to be talking about. Is UCF a playoff contender? I know we've only seen one day of practice, but Eric, I'll start with you. Do they view themselves as a playoff contender, and are they right?
They should, and if they don't, then what are we doing? what are we doing? Like this is not Vanderbilt. We're not Vanderbilt. That hey, let's hope we have a winning season. No. If you want it, you tout it that you've wanted to be a big boy. And if you want to be a big boy in this state, You've got to be a contender. You've got the quarterback that fits this system. This quarterback, KJ Jefferson, is the first quarterback Gus has had here since he's arrived here that fits what he wants. He's got the quarterback. He's got the running back. I think Kobe Hudson's really good. I know, Kyle, you've got questions on the O-line. He doesn't seem to have that question. Maybe he's like me that maybe gives Herb Hand the benefit of the doubt there. But I think maybe that's a factor. But yeah, I think they are a contender. I think they're one of many on a Big 12 that's wide open. I think Utah, rightfully so, should be the favorite. But it's not like they're Georgia or Alabama. It's not like you have a Ohio State in your conference. This thing is wide open. So why not? And you got a favorable schedule. Here's the other part why I think it's urgency that he has. This year, UCF has 5 conference home games. That doesn't happen every year. You got to take advantage of that. When you have the 5 plus the 2 non-conference home games, that's 7 non-conference home games. Plus, one of your road games is a bus trip to Gainesville. So from a travel standpoint, remember, guys, how we talked they talked a lot about the travel last year and did it take its toll when going to Boise? You don't have that this year. It's a very favorable.
It wasn't just travel, Elo. Let's get this right in case everyone's forgotten. Traveled more than anyone else in the country in terms of mileage.
But one of the reasons why I think that was the big, and I thought personally the biggest struggle was depth. And another thing that he harped on was we got the depth now. I find that, I think he's right. Looking at the preliminary, UCF hasn't released a depth chart, but looking at our lads, it was interesting that he mentioned the offensive line, Kyle, because he's got 5 returners coming back.
Right. Well, and it's not so much, depth is awesome there too. He feels confident in, and do not accuse me of having a lack of confidence in Herb Hand. That dude is awesome. That dude, in his words, is a dude. But I think the thing that gets me worried is we're kind of taking for granted how UCF has continued to just revamp and regel lines going into now a 3rd consecutive year. It's not something you're supposed to be able to get away with, but Herb Hand may be that kind of an X factor here. And listen, I talked to Marcellus Marshall about it too. It is a process, and him being named a captain, I think, will help them get through that for a 3rd year.
The key to this, I think, is going to be also, and we're going to take a break here right after this, and Eric and Kyle, I want to get your thoughts on this too. The key with that offensive line is going to be keeping KJ Jefferson upright, not just blocking for the run game in RJ Harvey, but KJ had some injury issues at Arkansas, still managed to become that program's all-time leading passer. But the concerns coming in was, can he stay healthy? And so that's the big question. Can they keep him healthy? Are they good enough to keep him from having to do what we did last year when John Rice Plumlee got hurt in the Boise State game, running for a first down late in the game, and then you had to deal with, and then you had to put Timmy McClain in. Nothing against Timmy, he did all he could, but you throw a wrench into the works like that at a critical point in the season. It's difficult to expect. You expect yourself to get the top level of performance when your best quarterback's out.
I will admit a relative level of film ignorance. I have not watched a whole lot of Arkansas football, I will grant. Here's the impression I am left with.
Probably for the better, anyway.
Well, details. Here's the impression I am left with. And now that I'm about to say this, I'm going to go research this and make sure I can be better informed and have a better opinion of this on future episodes of the Night Shift podcast. But we know John Rice Plumlee got hurt because of a lack of discipline in attacking and running.
His own recklessness is what you're saying.
KJ Jefferson has already told me about his philosophy in dishing out punishment. It's something I can do, but I'm going to do it responsibly. And by the way, gentlemen, seeing the guy who is as big as Cam Newton walking out to the practice field.
I was going to say, there's a reason why he's been compared to Cam Newton.
Exactly. Is a hell of a sight.
He's a tall drink of water, man. Let me tell you.
There's no one confusing him for a baseball outfielder. No offense to my friends who enjoy stickball. And he's less likely to make the mistake of putting himself in the position of taking a hit where he shouldn't. And what I've heard about the Arkansas line that he departed from, they may have more to do with the injuries than he does.
Yeah, they weren't very good at the end. Yeah,
so,
and it didn't help. They had changed coordinators. They tried to do more of a pro set offense. That's not who he is.
Exactly. So I would need to find some film of the actual dings and all that to confirm all that. But I know that set of circumstances way different than dealing with JRP, who, by the way, all of us thought was spectacular to watch.
Wise advice from KJ Jefferson. Punish responsibly. We'll talk a little bit of defense, the other side, when we return. Also, some personnel moves, a familiar face coming back to UCF. And, oh my God, awards already? Stick around. We'll be right back. This is the Night Shift Podcast. We're back after this. For all the latest news and analysis from every UCF sport, visit blackandgoldbanneret.com, your home for the UCF Knights on SB Nation. We bring you all the latest news and in-depth analysis from across Knight Nation, from football and hoops to golf and tennis. If you want to stay on top of all things UCF, visit blackandgoldbanneret.com, powered by SB Nation. Welcome back to the show. Jeff Sharon, Kyle Nash, Eric Lopez, and Bryson Turner with you here on Night Shift. A couple quick hitters here. Elo, he's back. Sean Beckton is back at UCF. Coach Malzahn announced he was hired as an analyst today. Number one, it's always good to have a Hall of Famer back. Number two, it's always good to have Sean Beckton on your coaching staff in some capacity. Analysts can't work hand in hand with players. Right? They
can. That just got changed. Yeah.
That just got changed. Oh, okay. All right.
Analysts can coach them up now a little bit. They could be on the field.
Okay.
That just NCAA passed that. Yeah.
So then what do you expect from Sean in that respect?
Well, that's why I think this is actually a pretty underrated move. I mean, Sean Beckton's done a great job in the past as a wide receiver coach, as a defensive back coach, as a tight end coach. He could do it all.
Actually took him to Nebraska.
Yeah, didn't work out there, but
didn't work out.
I think it's a good fit. I mean, especially now that the analysts have. I mean, we don't know, and we'll ask Gus about this. I'm sure he'll get asked about this when we get to media day about the analysts. But that is one of the big off-season rule changes: is the analysts now can coach. Basically, there's a lot of terminologies into it, so he'll be involved. I mean, that's a good person to have. I'm curious what role he'll have within the staff and what department. I believe his son is on the staff too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
He's close. I have to double check, but he's
close
to the program. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's the assistant director of sports performance. He was on the training staff.
Yeah, I like the move. It's an alum. You've got Darren Hinshaw, who's done a great job, I think, in this short time here as the quarterback coach there. So, I think it's actually a very underrated, sneaky good move.
Right. Let's not forget, by the way, Eric, you and I both ranked him as the best UCF assistant coach in UCF history in our top 30 assistant coaches list over this past summer. So I'm telling you what, I am quite excited to see him return. And the fact that he can actually work with players, I mean, if you're Tim Harris Jr. or Sean or Brian Blackman, and you're working with these wide receivers and tight ends, and you're maybe doing something, what better ace in the hole, weapon in the pocket to have to work with your players than Sean Beckton?
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see if the fruits of their labor come to fruition, because the Maxwell Award watch list came out. Yes, we already have award watch lists out in the last couple days of July. RJ Harvey and KJ Jefferson, two of the four captains, have been named to the Maxwell Award watch list. This is the award that's given out annually to the, quote, most outstanding player in college football, end quote. And Eric, you are, and you've told me this before, you are very high on KJ Jefferson.
Yeah, I think
to the extent that you think he could be a potential Heisman candidate if things go the right way.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things would have to go right on that, but yeah, absolutely. I think he's got the makings. I think he's a fit in this offense. I think they're going to be a physical running team. I think it'll fit him very well. Absolutely. I mean, the preseason award watch list, it is what it is. I mean, you're not going to.
Well, I mean, it's telling you what is expected of the key players on your team, right?
For sure.
I don't know expected, but it does acknowledge opportunity. And I think
opportunity, that's a good word. Yeah.
I think to Elo's point, he's identified something that is an absolute plausible best case scenario is what I'll say. Right.
And let's not forget, RJ Harvey ran for 1,400 yards last year.
And was still completely disrespected by members of the Big 12 conference.
Yes, because he's the only good running back that league has. I know. Yeah. What a disrespect.
No, don't be glib, Eric. Okay, like with the line that's supposed to be so bad, like people in the local media here in Orlando was trying.
There we go with the local media.
He still got 1,400 yards. So either he's awesome or that O-line better than you thought. Something.
Or maybe they play some bad defenses in the two. Could be a little bit of everything.
Nah, that doesn't matter. Let's remember that RJ's 1,400 yards was third most in UCF history for a single season behind Marquette Smith and, of course, Kevin Smith, which set the untouchable star there at 25.67 back in 2007. But RJ comes in ninth in UCF history this year at 2,215 yards. If he duplicates his yardage from last year, that would put him at 3,600 and change, which would put him well all alone in second place all time at UCF, ahead of Alex Haynes and 1,000 yards behind Kevin Smith. So that tells you exactly where Kevin Smith is in this whole scenario. So, all right, I want to flip over to the defensive side of the ball. We talked before the break about the offense. Back over to the defense. And when we were looking at the depth chart yesterday, guys, and again, UCF hasn't actually released their own depth chart, but we were looking at one on our.
Nobody does. Nobody will.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you guys later about depth charts, but linebacker is going to be the key. And, we saw last year UCF was, let's just be real here. They were pretty thin and relatively small at linebacker. Mm-hmm. That has been worked on a big way. And I think one of the things that we saw here, and I think that a key player that we're going to hear a lot from this year is going to be Ethan Barr.
Yes.
Who's a transfer over from Vanderbilt. And he is big, by the way, for a linebacker. And I'm also really looking forward to see what Deshaun Pace does for UCF as well. A guy who came over from Cincinnati. I unfortunately had the displeasure of calling his name a fair number of times in games against Cincinnati. So it'll be nice to actually put a little bit more sugar on it this time around. Mm-hmm. But that was the point of emphasis, right, Kyle? Get the linebacking core in shape, because up front, they were pretty good. In the back half, they were pretty good. But we really wore down, especially in fourth quarters, at the linebacker spot, stuffing the run.
Yeah, and I mean, getting Nakai Martinez involved. Listen, and as a dude who transferred, I can understand why. NIL is a thing, yada yada yada. But depending on a safety to tackle dudes like that, like Elo and I joke earlier, but the
whole thing is you don't want to depend on a safety to lead your team in tackles.
That's exactly my point. Yeah,
if the safety's leaving your team in tackles, that means guys are getting to the second and third level way too much.
The guy did a hell of a job making some saving tackles to keep them inside the box still, but it's that piece where we're trying to keep the defense off under 40 minutes time of possession by the opposing offense. That's a good start, right? And listen, anybody who is a good, sizable linebacker should enjoy the luxury that is this interior defensive line. Somebody else too worth mention that also gave them props here to today as we're recording this, or previously before we're recording this, Malachi Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
Josh Talisker, Tremont Morris, Brash, both gone. Still, though, this interior line is going to be where this defense starts, and these defensive ends also are going to have to make up the difference as well as the linebackers.
Let me talk real quick about the size, Eric, of the linebackers UCF brought in. Ethan Barr 6'3", 245, fifth year. Josiah Pierre, who's originally from Mount Dora, came over from Texas Tech, 6'2", 240, fifth year man. Deshaun Pace, 6'2", 220. He's the small one of the bunch. Zeri Alexander who came over from Idaho, 6'2", 215. Some big boys, man. I mean, those are, and we talked about, one of I think the key differences is size in that front seven when you go from the American to the Big 12. These are Big 12. These are Big 12 dudes now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and you mentioned you got two guys, 245 or higher. The guys that aren't, these are more of your outside linebackers. These are the ones that are actually going to have their role in making sure that tight ends get accounted for. I think the stat was 138 or 148, I forget which, in UCF's first Big 12 outing last year against Kansas State, right? That much yardage against dudes that aren't receivers. Okay. So, for all the talk we make about size, there are also athletes in place to make sure running backs and tight ends don't do too much damage in the check down.
Eric, your concerns any?
Yeah, the entire defense. Let's see if they can play. Let's see if they can play. That's great. You did stuff in the other end. Starts in the defensive line. Can you stop the run? It's real simple. Or you're going to get bullied around. Start with that. I mean, as much as grief as the linebackers get, if you get giving up 300 yards a pop, doesn't matter who your linebackers or defensive backs are. So can they stop the run? Can these linebackers mesh? Do they fit? We'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Eric does have a point with the D line, by the way, because no. Let me finish. Because the only new addition from the transfer portal that Gus brought in for the D line was Najala Kelly from Miami. And I think that's what's telling me, what this tells for me at least, is that Gus feels like the D line is good for the time being because he put more emphasis on getting stuff for the secondary and the linebacker position. So was that decision to focus more on that, leave the D line in a position in that position? And because when you focus more on trying to fix some other stuff, sometimes you might lose a little bit somewhere else. So I can understand why Eric is concerned. It might have a little bit of concern for the D line because of just the focus that people have had with this team over the offseason on defense. I don't think he's wrong on that.
Well, one of the other things that was – go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry.
The reason why the focus is there is because there are NFL caliber defensive tackles that have come out to at least crack an NFL training camp since I've covered this team, right? Going back to Tristan Hill and guys like that. Kalia Davis was up there with the 49ers for a bit. I don't know if he's still on the roster or not. I haven't checked. We have guys that are going to make that same noise. Lee Hunter, Johnny Walker, all that stuff going on there. Those guys are key to it. The reason why so much was put on the backers, Eric, is very simple. If you have D tackles that are good enough to still draw double teams and the job's still not getting done, it's the second level that's the problem. Defensive tackles of great prowess have extended NFL players such as Ray Lewis and kept them in the league. And you all know what Ray Lewis is to the NFL. If Sam Adams and Haloti Ngata were not a thing, he is not a Hall of Famer, point blank.
With respect to all those players you mentioned in defensive line, none of them are Reggie White. And none of them are Bruce Smith. None of them are difference makers. They're nice players that, hey, get a cup of coffee.
Lord, whoa.
No, they're not. Sorry.
But those guys, okay. But also, I'll also say, Eric, that those two guys were defensive ends who rushed the passer.
Yeah, and how many sacks did they get?
Oh, they got a lot, but we're talking about stopping.
Not really. No, they didn't. That's the point. They didn't. And again,
wait, what?
They didn't. Look up the numbers. They didn't get a lot of
Reggie
sacks.
White and Bruce Smith did not get a lot of sacks.
I'm talking about the UCF guys.
Okay.
UCF guys.
For a minute there,
I'll give you a Warren Sapp compare. My point is, it's not like you had a NFL first-round defensive lineman on your roster. Now, maybe Walker can develop into that, but let's see how John Walker does in a second year now that people have film on him and other teams will make adjustments to him. There's always a different factor into that. So I'm not as convinced. I think you're giving the defensive line a pass for their struggles last year. Absolutely you are.
You've decided to confuse and mix in the interior of the defensive line with the exterior, okay? Did you hear me say anything about defensive ends? If you want to make your criticism specific to the outside, cool. I'll listen to that. I do find it intriguing that there's so few transfers. I'm telling you, this interior defensive line group is good enough to build upon.
But what happens? Because I remember I read your recaps. What happened when teams ran outside on them?
That's where the problems were, because there were no backers and the defensive ends were overcommitted. That is a good point.
No, you're fair. You're right. The defensive tackle for the most part was okay most of the time. There were times though they got pushed around. We'll blame that on youth more than anything else.
Well,
let's give K-State some credit, dude. They had so many like 5th and 6th year dudes on that line in K-State.
Well, what do you think you're facing here in the Big 12?
But here's another point that I thought was brought up early in the press conference. Somebody brought up Anthony Kinsey, the new director of football strength and conditioning, and I think that was another key. Now that you're at the Big 12 level, you got to be conditioned to a Big 12 level, and from some of the things that I've heard from him, they love that. They love this guy. He's really changed it up. Where does that have the most impact? On the interior, offensive and defensive line, strength and conditioning, because y'all know how it is, man. Eric, you say it all the time. It's in the trenches. Whichever team is stronger in the trenches and can withstand that punishment will come out on top, right?
That's in the textbook. That ain't me or Eric.
Yeah, we'll see. That's all I'm saying is
I read the textbook, so
that is where the questions are. Yeah. And if and again, will they gel? Will they gel as a unit? We don't know.
Well, we're going to get a little bit more exposure to the assistants to the players on Thursday because UCF has their media day, non-Big 12 variant over on campus. So we're going to be taking a look at that. We'll be sending
all 4 of us in the building, Jeff.
Yeah, we're all going to parachute in and see what the situation is. And it should be fun. So keep an eye on Black and Gold Banneret, of course, as well as our socials all over the place on Facebook, X, Threads, and Instagram. We're going to be even Kyle dropped some video content earlier today on all those channels, and we appreciate that tremendously. We'll have plenty more to do after Thursday as well. All right, last thing we want to talk about here. Let's talk Olympics, and as the games of Paris continue. Check out, by the way, our podcast feed as well for Bryson's most recent interviews with 4 of UCF's Olympians.
Thank you. Good Bing. Jeff stepping up his Bing game. That's what I'm talking about.
Lay on this thing finally. But anyway, Bryson, the 2 sports that UCF fans need to pay attention to the most are rugby and rowing, because that's where our alumni are. So update us right now on what the stat, because the rugby, that went by fast.
Rugby's a fast sport.
Yeah, I mean, they only play like two 7-minute halves. Is that right?
I think it's 2 9-minute halves. It's a fast game. It's a very fast game.
I'm kind of relieved to hear that, though. It's a punishing one.
No, it very much is. Look, the ball might look the same as American football, but let's make no mistake, they don't have any pads that they're working with here. They are just running that thing and getting tackled.
That one dude from France on the men's rugby side, I saw them in the gold medal match. Someone needs to get that dude a scholarship. Because let me tell you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a really cool to watch. Like it's
also I think RJ Harvey would be an amazing rugby player. I'm just going to put that out there right now. Anyway, I'm sorry, Bryson. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I think he would be, honestly. You want to try to break through the gaps. So like those are what you do to succeed with that. But as far as everything else, the men have already finished their time in the Rugby Sevens tournament. Didn't exactly go very well for them. They ended up finishing eighth place, only winning in one match. UCF alum Malachi Esdale was on the team. He pretty much served as a second half replacement to kind of keep some fresh legs on Team USA's side during this. For his highlight, I would say, of the tournament was this one try saving takedown that he had against Australia when the game was a lot closer. Unfortunately, Team USA just could not get the offense going in that game, and they ended up losing 18-0. So that was quite unfortunate. And then on the women's side of things, Kristen Thomas is a traveling reserve for the team, so she will not see the pitch unless another one of the team is unable to play. But she has been a leading presence on the team over the past several years. So she's been with the program a long time, and they're doing quite well in this one. They've managed to go 3-1, only losing to host team France in pool play, and so they're now going to be playing in the semifinal matchup.
They beat England or Great Britain, I should say.
Yes, they beat Great Britain today. The day we're recording is 17-7, and now they're going to go into the semifinals. It's going to be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So this is going to be the day you might be listening to this. So it might be done by
Tuesday for those. Yeah, it's Tuesday. Odds are probably.
But look who they're playing.
They're playing the defending gold medalist, New Zealand.
The All Blacks from New Zealand.
Oh yeah, it's a tough
test. That's going to be tough.
But that being said, they are still in contention for a medal, because even if they lose that match, they go into the bronze medal match where they'd have to play either Canada or Australia. So that will be a very intriguing day of rugby to look forward to there. We'll see if we'll see Kristen Thomas on those days.
But they're in medal contention.
But they are in medal contention. This is an improvement that they had over last year. Yeah. Actually, this is quite the improvement for Team US, and so I'm quite excited to see how they'll do on the rugby pitch.
All right, over to the rowing side, and you did a couple great interviews on that side as well. So let's talk about rowing, and along with Julie Poulsen and Victoria Senkute. What are their statuses right now? When are we going to see them?
All right, so they will definitely have already rowed again by the time you're listening to this, because they're going to be rowing in the dead early morning Eastern time. So just to kind of recap what they've done so far, Julie Poulsen and Team Denmark in the women's four competition had a bit of a rough go at it in their heat competition on July 28th. They ended up finishing in last place in their heat with the 656.7 for reference. First place Great Britain finished with 642.57. It was quite the gap. But I've seen them row faster times, so they will still have a chance to make it into the final, because they'll get to race in the I cannot pronounce this word for like me, repechage, something like that. So the top two teams in the repechage will advance to the final. And Denmark got into these games in the first place by getting a top two spot in a last chance qualifier. So This is not new for Denmark to put themselves into such a position. They will be rowing against the USA, Ireland, China, and Australia at 5:30 a.m. Eastern time on July 30th. So by the time you're listening to this, they will have already rowed. So
and also Victoria is going on Tuesday as well, right? Very early.
Yes.
Now she's in the last quarterfinal in single sculls, but it's still going to be really early. So set your DVRs, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yes, Peacock.
Peacock is where where we can watch that. Okay.
Yeah, Peacock is a really good place, because that way, even if you don't see it, you can just go back and replay the whole thing. So that way you can just find where it is. Senkute, I'm very impressed by the way. She got the fastest time of the day in the heat. She ended up taking first place in hers with a 7:30. She ended up finishing about 4.3 seconds ahead.
So she's a legit medal contender.
I would say so, but remember the top three in each heat moved on automatically to the quarterfinals. So while Senkute might have been the fastest day one, you got to remember that, the top three in each heat, which means sometimes the best might have to go all out in order to make it to the next thing. And so the big question, I think, for Senkute is how much energy does she expel in that first race, and how well can she recover going into this quarterfinal. That's going to be, I think, the key, because you don't want to flame out early.
Now the last one,
and that's at 3:30 a.m. Eastern time on Peacock. If you miss it, don't worry, you can go back on Peacock and replay it. But you can also find me on Twitter at It's Bryson Turner, where I'll update on their progress as well.
And we'll have that also retweeted on Black and Gold Banneret's socials as well. Last one, Sarai Linder for women's soccer. She's playing for Germany. She is the third UCF women's soccer player to appear in the Olympics. Michelle Akers, of course, was the first in Atlanta in the 96 games. And then Eric, our old friend, Eleni Reyes for Brazil in 2016 competed and actually earned herself a clean sheet in pool play. But Sarai is on Team Germany. Have we seen anything from them? I know they lost to the U.S. On Sunday. So what's the situation with Sarai? Have we seen her yet?
Yes, she actually got the start in Team Germany's first match of the games against Australia. She actually got an assist in that game. She played the whole time and got an assist to help Team Germany to the win. She actually did not play against Team USA because she came down with an infection. So yeah, the Team Germany Twitter account announced it before the matchup that she was not available for it. So all my best to her. Hopefully she is recovering well. But as of this moment, she is listed on the roster for Team Germany's final pool play matchup against Zambia, which is going to be at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, July 31st. That should be available on Peacock for sure.
And they're 1-1 right now, and they have assuming they get through Zambia, they will move on to the medal round. Is that right?
I would say so, but I would definitely want to look at Australia because because if they upset, and if they end up getting the upset, because right now they're also at 1-1.
They're tied. That's right, and and Germany right now would advance, but then it goes to goal differential, I think, right?
Yes, I believe so. So that's going to be very important. Now, the good news is that Team USA is looking pretty good this year. So if Team USA gets the win, then I think we would be pretty safe there. But Germany would obviously still need to win just to feel comfortable against Zambia. But Zambia has gone 0-2 so far with a -4 goal differential. So don't want to overlook them, but you definitely want to make sure that. But Team USA winning would certainly help your case in order to advance out of pool play, and we'll keep an eye on how that works then later on in the knockout round.
Shout out to the rowers. Shout out to Chris Thomas. Shout out to Sarai Linder for Team Germany. See if we have a chance to get for UCF to get an Olympic medal this year.
I don't think we've had that happen yet. No, Phil Dalhouser. Phil Dalhouser's done it.
Obviously Phil Dalhouser, yeah, but also Michelle Akers, medaled in 96.
Got the gold in 96 in Atlanta. Got the gold in Atlanta. So Kyle, don't you listen, do we need? I think Bryson just proved we don't need Mike Tirico to host the Olympics. Bryson can handle it. I mean, that's clear.
Dude,
no, I mean, come on.
You should
we should petition to have Bryson replace. Maybe not replace, but at least supplement both Mike Tirico and Maria Taylor.
100%.
I mean, Bryson's up at prime time in the late shift, so he can handle it.
Yeah. So
you want to? No, it's not the late shift; it's the night shift. By the way, so I would say that it's Mike Tirico. You should look at Andrew Siciliano and Scott Hansen doing the crossover of the sports coverage century on the Peacock Gold Zone.
Oh, that is good. Scott Hansen is the star.
Hansen. Yeah, he's just Hansen's just an ace. At this point.
Let's not disrespect Siciliano though. He's awesome too.
I don't want to, but listen, I'm partial to Hansen.
That's cool. Hey, so listen, Batman got a good Robin. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
I'll tell you what. If he doesn't have, since he doesn't have Red Zone, I'd be calling. I would if I were ESPN, I'd be calling Andrew Siciliano to do a college sports Red Zone channel thing.
Ooh, hey, easy.
Yeah, you might be onto something. Well, ESPN already does something like that, don't they?
No, not anymore. It's very complicated because you don't have the rights to.
Yeah. They used to have more. It's a bar. I forget what that was called, Eric. Do you remember what that was?
Goal zone. Something like that. Yeah, goal line.
That's right.
And the NBA though, next year, in 2 years, when the new TV deal, they will have this version for the NBA on ESPN.
All right. I dig it. All right. I think that'll just about do it for us here on this brand new, all new Night Shift episode number 434. Make sure you follow us on social media. We are on X at UCF Banneret _SBN. We are on Threads at Black and Gold Banneret, also Instagram at Black and Gold Banneret, and of course the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Black Gold Banneret. You can follow us individually. I spend my time on Threads these days at Jeff Sharon. Kyle is at VSOTG for the student of the game.
I'm on Twitter though, not on X. I'm just letting you know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Eric is on X at Eric Lopez Elo, and Bryson is at It's Bryson Turner. I have no other way out of that, guys. I'm sorry. All right.
Whenever I send you a DM, it'll be a DMX.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose your mind up in here. That's all I'm saying.
And then, of course, you can follow us on blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the latest news, analysis, and content from UCF Athletics. So for Kyle, Bryson, and Eric, I'm Jeff. Enjoy it. We will see you again after Media Day on Thursday for UCF football. As here we go, folks. When the next time we talk to you, oh my God, it's going to be August. Here we go. Thanks again, folks. Go Knights, charge on. We'll see you from Media Day on Thursday.